Welcome, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. This is Love Entrepreneurs with Ellery Coslet. And today we're going to continue on from last week's discussion, or the beginning of the discussion, on how you can get fit for funding. We're using Love Entrepreneurs and its allied organization, Silvertree. But more about that from you, Ellery. How can you get fit for funding if you're a small business wanting to push forward?
Well, that's really quite easy, actually. And it's something that I didn't think was easy once upon a time until I did it myself. So I came across this wonderful scheme called the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme that was set up, actually, one of the good things that George Osborne did in 2012. And the idea was that he wanted to help fund small businesses so that they could grow. And the idea was that he was prepared to allow small businesses to be given their tax back, or people who would invest in small businesses could do so by getting their tax back that they'd already paid to the government. So the idea is that you match fund that with the tax that you've already paid, which is a brilliant idea. The only problem is that if you've paid tax and you'd like to invest, let's say, in your next door neighbour's business or your friend's business, you've got to have the and let's say you've paid £20,000 in tax over the last 2 years, you can then put in 40,000, but you've got to come up with that £40,000 in cash in order to get that £20,000 back in the first place.
Right.
So obviously you have to have the money, don't you, in the first place to do it, right? Yeah. So that's problem number one. So what we did, we spoke to our partner organisation, Silvertree, who many of our people are members of, which is great because, as you know, because you're a member of it too, it helps you. You pay for your business expenses without having to use cash, just using your spare capacity. So it's great. So they're prepared to fund this gap of £40,000 and help investors invest in small businesses, which of course then translates into cash for that small business, which otherwise they would never have had before. So it's a really innovative and fantastic way for small businesses to get funded without having to rely on funding from very large institutions or people with lots and lots and lots of money, which they may not know. So I'm very happy with this because this is a lifetime's work for me, wanting to make sure the small businesses who need to be profitable, Gareth, let's not forget this, they need to be profitable because that's how they survive.
Right.
These aren't huge tech companies that, benefit tax-wise from having millions of losses on their balance sheets to start off. These are companies that have to make 10, 20, 30,000 a year in order to survive. And those are the businesses that I want to help in particular. And we found a way to do it.
So can you lay that out in a general way without getting super technical as to how that can manifest? Because I know that there'll be small business owners listening to this thinking, well, she talks a good talk. How's this gonna translate for me?
Well, so the idea is that let me give you an example. I'll try and make it as simple as possible. So anybody that's got a business that's under 2 years old can benefit from this scheme. Okay. So that's the requirement. The maximum investment that you can receive is £250,000, which is great so far. You then start on the process of getting yourself approved. You have to get approved for the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, and that involves going through filling about 12 documents out, a business plan and that sort of thing. Now that's the sort of stuff that we help people do at Love Entrepreneurs. It's a relatively straightforward process. It takes about 3 months. Sounds a bit more complicated, like all these things do, than they really are. So we help people on that journey. And then once they've completed all that paperwork, they get approval. and that's when the magic starts and the fun starts. So you've got your approval, then you go off to get investment. And what you'll find, just like we found, is that there are about 5 major funds in the UK that specialise in this. But they tend not to be interested in small businesses. They tend to be interested in much larger business. So high scale tech businesses, for example, that will have lots of losses on their balance sheet. Because one of the benefits of this scheme for an investor is that if the company makes a loss over the next 5 years, they can offset all those losses against their tax bill going forward over the next 5 years. So it doesn't take a genius to work out why people who curate and collect all individuals who want to invest are interested in businesses that are large and will make high level of losses, because it'll be very attractive for them to market to partners in law firms, partners in accountancy practices who are all PAYE to a certain degree, because they can promise them, hey, you'll offset loads and loads of tax. It's fantastic, and the businesses will benefit. So my argument is that this doesn't help the economy, actually. This doesn't help sustain and grow the small businesses that is the backbone of our economy. This is what we fight for every day. This is who we are. So what Silvertree will do, because that is currency and it's treated by HMRC as currency, it will forward fund by way of an overdraft facility any person in the network of Silvertree that wants to invest in a small business. And because it's treated like money, that money will then, that silver currency will then be used as the first capital investment in the new business. So the investor can then go to the business owner, they can sign a shareholders agreement, and they can buy X amount of shares. And then they can go with that paperwork then to HMRC, and they can get their cash refund for the last 2 years that they paid tax for. And then they basically pop that cash refund into the business, and the business will repay to them the silver that Silvertree advanced to the investor. But the investor, of course, is left with, and the investor will be probably a company or an individual that wants to trade. If they want to stay in Silvertree, that's great. They need to pay that back to the exchange because they need to trade out of that position. And if they're not, well, that's all right. We just swap the debt over so that the company ends up with the debt position instead of the investor. So you end up with a company that otherwise wouldn't have had cash in it, having, say, £20,000 worth of cash, but a minus balance on the Silvertree exchange of 20,000. But the point is, the other route to this, unfortunately, as we found out, is that if you want to go down the mainstream of doing this, it takes a long time, and you probably won't get anywhere because they're only interested, as I said, to fund businesses that usually make large amounts of losses. So that just doesn't work for people. I know this because we've been down this road ourselves, and it's through going down this road ourselves that I decided, right, we need to really do something here to help small businesses that may just want 10,000 or 15,000 or 5,000, because it will be transformatory for their journey. Right. And what you end up with is a whole bunch of businesses that will really start to trade with each other.
Right. It seems to me that although there are some humps to get over, and you said there's an initial 3 months process really where you're getting all the paperwork done, although there is that initial hump, once you're on the process,
yeah,
it should be relatively straightforward. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like anything, Gareth. You know, think of opening a bank account and how much hassle that takes these days.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be open-minded and willing to accept the process. It is what it is, and you're not going to change it. We're not going to change it. It's not a push-button process. They've got to be assured, the Inland Revenue, if they're giving money back to anybody, they've got to be assured that the company applying for funding is valid, is genuine, has a genuine prospect of making money.
Yeah, it's got to be valid. It's got to be something that they can see that it's going to be used well. It's going to be used sensibly. I guess they got to see what it's going to be used on, that it's going to make a difference to make
absolutely, that. Absolutely. But as you know, my whole life work now is about helping keep helping keep small companies sustainable, helping them keep alive, helping them get cash flow in where otherwise they wouldn't have had anything. You know, because you don't need cash necessarily to start a business. You just need a damn good idea, and you need the power of Job to actually push yourself through to keep on going. And you need to keep testing it. I mean, you know this yourself. I mean, how often, you know, you pivot all the time. You're a real entrepreneur. You know, you always seize market opportunities because you're focused on
my eyes open for opportunities that can be turned into benefit for my clients. That's
absolutely certainly. Yeah, but that is an example of it. You've just said those words. You turn opportunities into things that can be of benefit to your clients. Now, if everybody did that, that could be the subject of our next discussion, actually, because what you're doing is what every single business in this country should be doing. They should be serving their clients and looking for things that are going to make their clients think that Gareth Wax is the best thing since sliced bread, because he doesn't just do this for me, he does all of the other things for me.
I think the biggest problem with entrepreneurs today is, rather than looking for better and more interesting ways of doing a thing, what they do is they look to do exactly the same way as their neighbors and then charge a slightly cheaper price for it in hope they can undercut them. And I think that's just a race to the bottom.
But it's a race to the bottom. It's completely pointless. Completely waste of time. That's not entrepreneurship. That's just market capitalism in action, you know. But you can do it if you've got massive amount of money, and you can do it at huge scale. You know, look at Poundland.
Well, yes, well, that's a good case in point. They're now mostly collapsed in this country, Poundland, because it became and it became a race to the bottom, which became sustainable. So that it's a good illustration of both sides of it. Yes, they took an idea and thought, well, we'll make everything a pound, and then found that the costs of the products were rising that they were bringing in, hence making that their profitability less and less.
Maybe they should have called themselves £5 or something.
Well, perhaps. Yeah. But the point I'm making is, I mean, for instance, I'll give you an idea. The killer app on LinkedIn right now is short form vertical form video. So portrait style, punchy video. But even that's not enough, because people are doing that. I'm now coming up with interviews where one of the interviews, in fact, an animated character, and so it's a real person versus an animated character. Just the idea being is to try and find a variation on a theme that makes you stand out.
That's right. It's a different way, and that's innovation, right? It's looking at the benefit of what people watch. Yes. And actually being able to intuit it and turn it around with a slight pivot to something that's just slightly different. It's not that people haven't done it before, but if you can do, but it gives somebody another in. And that's what we've done with the funding, right? So we're looking at, you know, what do people really need in their business? They need a bit of cash to help them get on to an even keel, right? That doesn't have to be stupid amounts of money. But it needs to be planned, and they need to take their businesses seriously. They need to, you know, this opportunity is open to everybody, and you can do it. It's a lot of people say to me, oh yeah, but we want the cash, we want all the cash. Well, they can go out there, be my guest, do what we've tried to do with 5 different funds, and you will find exactly what we found, the same answers. And that's precisely based on what you're doing. It's precisely what we found. So we're doing this innovation based on our own experience. Okay, so we're thinking, how can we actually actively do something to help our clients? What do they really need? They need to make money. So how do we get them to make money? If we can get them funding in, do they know 4 or 5 people that pay PAYE? Yes, will be absolutely the case. Would these people object to investing in these businesses? Well, the first question they're going to have is it going to cost me anything? And the answer is going to be no.
Yes.
So it's a no, it's a zero-sum game, right? It's like, well, there's no cost to them. Great, fantastic, I'm in. But through that mechanism, you can then fund the business. And what will happen is that business has a chance then of making even more money and sustaining itself going forward, because it will actually buy services from people like you, for example, which in turn will help your business move forward. This is what I'm advocating. I've been advocating this for years. We are not people who live on islands. We need to think of innovative ways to share with our communities and get everybody on the same boat, so we all rise together collectively. There's enough.
I'm going to awkwardly plagiarize Isaac Newton and say we stand on the shoulders of other people. We may appear giants, but all we're doing is clambering up on the shoulders of others. And the only way they can sustain us and lift us up is if there's proper linkage between everybody. That is open and honest and direct communication, and making sure that your innovative solutions are applicable. And that's a process. We'll talk more about what businesses can do to find innovation, to look for innovation. And I'll talk about some of my journey about doing exactly that next week. But until then, thank you so much, Ellery, for giving more flesh on the bone, talking about how Love Entrepreneurs can help the small business rise itself up. And to all of you watching, try and keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars and the moon. And at the same time, please try and look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.